Hello, everyone. A very warm and pleasant good morning to all. Myself, Dr. Shivangi Pandey from National Institute of Naturopathy, Pune. I welcome you all for the 14th day of Webathon series. The 48 days of webinar started on the occasion of Gandhi Jayanti with the theme of Insights of Gandhi's Perspective on Self-Health Reliance and its Other Determinants on Public Health, and will be concluded on 18th November, that is Naturopathy Day, organized by National Institute of Naturopathy in association with regional Maharashtra and Goa and other associated partners. We have renowned personalities to talk on various topics who are directly or indirectly inspired by Gandhi's principle. Before we move on to the next segment, with a heavy heart, I would like to share a news of sudden demise of a very promising naturopath, Dr. Satish Challa, due to freak accident. I guess there are some technical issues. So, So before moving on to the next segment, with heavy heart, I would like to share the news of sudden demise of a very promising naturopath, Dr. Satish Challa, due to freak accident. I would share my deep condolence to the family. I request to all the viewers to keep him and his family in mind while listening the prayer. We'll start the session with Gandhi's prayer.
अज्ञान के अंधेरों से हमें ज्ञान की उजालों की ओर ले चलो। असत्य की दीवारों से हमें सत्य के शिवालों की ओर ले चलो। अज्ञान के अंधेरों से आ, 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 सारे जहां के सब दुखों का एक ही तो निदान है, एक ही तो निदान है। या तो वो अज्ञान है, या तो वो अभिमान है, या तो वो अभिमान है। कायरों से दूर है, कायरों से दूर रहे हृदय वालों की ओर ले चलो। अज्ञान के अंधेरों से हमें ज्ञान की उजालों की ओर ले चलो। अज्ञान के अंधेरों से धर्म की मर्यादा न तोड़े, अपनी सीमा में रहे, अपनी सीमा में रहे। ना करे अन्याय, ना अन्याय औरों का सहे, अन्याय औरों का सहे। नफरतों के जहर से नफरतों के जहर से प्रेम की शिवालों की ओर ले चलो। अज्ञान के अंधेरों से हमें ज्ञान के उजालों की ओर ले चलो। अज्ञान के अंधेरों से, अज्ञान के अंधेरों से, अज्ञान के अंधेरों से।
Prayer is not asking, it is longing of the soul. It is admission of one's weakness. It's better in prayer to have a heart without words than words without heart. With these words, I would like to thank singer Sarmishta Chakrabarti, Field of Outreach Bureau, Nainital, Uttarakhand. Moving ahead, I always wonder if history would have been taught to us in the form of stories, it would have never been forgotten. Gandhiji had many inspirational life experiences, which is narrated by our director, Professor Dr. K. Satyalakshmi, in these Vipathon series. So, today's story will be Gandhi and unfried foods.
Hello friends, welcome to Gandhi Katha. In this story, we are going to see Mahatma Gandhi's experiment with uncooked food, this time particularly about soaked wheat. That is, there is this person by name Sundaram Gopal Rao of Rajamandri, who had a rapport with Mahatma Gandhi whenever Gandhiji visited Andhra. So, in this particular experiment, Mahatma Gandhi had a detailed discussion with Gopal Rao and then asked him, "You think I can follow this diet and then continue with my activities?" He said, "Certainly. Uncooked food is definitely better than cooked food. You try it, you will feel better." Then he started sending food to my ashram, and which I started the very following day. I told him I will start from tomorrow. When food was sent, that is, this germinating wheat was sent, Kasturba thought that it is some prasad and she distributed it among ashramites. So I had to follow the following day. So, what is my food? It is 80 grams of germinating wheat, 80 grams of sweet almond paste, 80 grams of green leaf paste, 6 lemons, and 2 ounces of honey. And occasionally, coconut milk will replace almond paste, and wheat is replaced by germinating seeds. Every day at 11 a.m., I would have my lunch, and 5 to 6 in the evening, I would have my dinner. I continued this experiment for 1 full month, and to my satisfaction, my energy levels and vitality has not impaired. In fact, I was feeling lighter and I lost 5 pounds of weight. So, with this experiment, I learned few more things about uncooked food. One is it frees women from drudgery because cooking brings no happiness to anyone, but it brings disease. Then the ethical value of uncooked food is incomparable, uh, particularly when compared to cooked food. Economically and nutritive value wise, uncooked food is far superior to cooked food. With this, I would caution people not to blindly follow or copy this experiment, but each is free to experiment depending on their body's constitution. So, this is my experiment. I thoroughly enjoyed. So, this was the story narrated by Mahatma Gandhi in his autobiography. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking time to narrate such a valuable insight. I would also like to thank Dr. Vaishnavi Chillara, Medical Officer at NIN, for editing the videos. Talking about NIN activities, NIN runs various academic actions. Under that, we have 7 skill development courses like TATC, certificate courses in naturopathy cooking, massage technique, acupressure, fitness training, hydrochromo and mud therapy, and registered yoga teacher training courses. NIN is a training organization with highest training standards, system, and process. Its existence is over 34 years of operations through over educational skill development groups. Students undergo a skill and competency assessment. To validate their strengths, trainee needs to develop their skills. These courses are open to all and for all age groups. So, as we all know, the theme of this year Naturopathy Day is Nurturing Vitality Through Naturopathy. I would like to request Dr. Jyoti Kumbhar, Medical Officer at NIN, to give her insights on quality indicator, vitality indicators. Sorry, vitality indicators. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, all. As Dr. Shivangi said, this year's theme for the Naturopathy Day celebrations is nurturing vitality through naturopathy. In last few sessions, we have been discussing about vitality in relation with the different vital indicators in our body. Yesterday, we also discussed about one of the most important principle in the nature cure philosophy is that understanding that every living organism has its own innate healing and self-restoring abilities. We also learned that we all are blessed with the quantum of life energy at the time of birth, and which is called vital energy. And this vital energy that we keep spending all along our life for every single movement for the various bodily functions. So it is our responsibility that we conserve and economize the spend of this vitality for keeping our health very good and our vitality in the long run. Also, we discuss about one of the most important concept in nature cure philosophy is of 5 elements. And we learn that we all are made up of these 5 elements. We call them as Panchamahabhutas. And they are air, fire, water, earth, and space. Yesterday, we discussed about the important element air. And we also learned that how we are going to nourish with the air element, our vitality and our body. Today, I'm here to discuss about another element of fire and how do we nourish our own bodies with this element fire, and that is sunlight. So there are 3 ways that you can nourish yourself. First is by connecting ourselves with the gentle rays of sun at the time of dawn and dusk. Secondly, by sun gazing. Sun gazing is a practice where we directly stare at the sun, and that also especially at the time of sunrise and sunset. And third is called as sun bathing and sun bath, that is simply lying down or relaxing in the pleasant warmth of the sun. So some of the questions like how much are you exposed to the sunlight? Are you exposing yourself regularly and at the optimum level? Or are you doing the sun exposure on and off, or it's only at times? So is it in the moderate amount, or are you absolutely not exposing to the sunlight? It is important to know what are the health benefits of the sun exposure for us. So sun exposure and the sunlight, it improves your brain function. It also helps to boost the one of the hormone called serotonin in your brain, and which actually fills up your body with the energy, with the new energy, and it helps you to stay calm, positive, and focused. And it is, of course, the sunlight is good for your eyes and your bone health. Sunlight improves your vitamin D levels in your body, and it prevents the vitamin D deficiency. Sunlight helps to boost the immunity at a different level, and sunlight also helps your blood sugar and your blood pressure to remain under control. It improves the quality of your sleep, and also sunlight can help us to treat various skin disorders and so on. As there are so many benefits of the sunlight, so it is important for us to expose ourselves every day, at least for the 30 minutes in the sunlight. And so here I finish the discussion of the sunlight. In our tomorrow's session, we are going to discuss with the water elements. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for telling us about how to nourish ourselves with 5 elements and increase our vitality. Now is the time for most awaited section of today's session. We have with us Mrs. V. Vishala Reddy, who will be talking on millets as sustainable food. She is the founder and director of Intensity Business Tourism Consultants. She is an activist, and while pursuing her epiphany experiences in life, she was mobilized and engaged with 20 lakh plus people, 350 plus organizations, and 1,000 plus volunteers for various community driven initiatives. She received a runner up award for behavioral changes for arranging 1 lakh hand campaign. She was recognized and felicitated by Commissioner of Police, New Delhi, for executing Swavlamban in Todapur slums, New Delhi. She is also a specialist in business development affiliated with Gaining Edge, Melbourne, Australia. She is also a director of special projects in the Atlanta Foundation, Hyderabad and Telangana. She is also a business development manager in Hyderabad Visitor Bureau. Last but not the least, She has started a millet bank, and right now she is working with underprivileged women. It's a privilege to have you, ma'am. I welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Over to you, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you so much, Yanayan, and for giving me this opportunity to be part of the webinar series. And it's my pleasure to be part of this. And yes, you've given a very good introduction, but I always would like to introduce myself as a farmer's daughter. I come from a farmer's family, so I have grown up seeing the agriculture and the issues and associated with that. So yes, we'll start. Before starting the today's session, today is National Women Farmers Day. It's actually around 11:20 now, and then I would have finished maybe 2 or 3 tasks, but lakhs of women farmers, they would have woken up, they would have taken care of their children, they would have taken care of their cattle, and they would have addressed the needs of elderly, and they would have finished their cooking, and they would have already been in the farm and working, despite any harsh weather conditions. They put their effort almost every day, every second. So let me offer my respect and my namaskar to all the women farmers who are feeding this country. And coming to the today's topic, millets as a sustainable foods. First, we have to ask ourselves, what is sustainable meaning? And in what aspect that we are talking about sustainable food? What is that we refer? How do we define it? So, in my view, what I noticed or what I heard, that sustainable means we have to take care of all aspects, let it be economical aspect or environmental aspect or a cultural aspect and social aspect. A sustainable food is not just economical or giving a livelihood for the farmers or giving good food, but also it has to create a multiple impacts. So let us take millets and how we can say that they are sustainable foods. If we can take first, let us come to the economical perspective. So if we say economical perspective, I want, like, whatever, I'm not an expert, I might not be an expert in agriculture because I worked in various other segments, but whatever I share today are my personal experiences which I've seen, heard and felt. Like when I have grown up in my village, in my house, we used to farm in 5 acres land, and we used to grow diverse type of grains and millets and pulses and leafy vegetables. So if you walk into any farmer's house in my village, they used to store this kind of multiple grains and multiple pulses at their house, and they used to cook also diverse foods. Therefore they used to get this very good nutritional diversity which takes care of the family. And number 2 is agriculture is actually our culture. It is not a profession but a way of life. That's how we always say. And the produce, farmers sell the produce, of course they have to sell to have the economical sustainability. But you look at, it is not just getting the money into the farmers' homes, right? It is also getting different types of grains for their houses so that they are healthy. Today if you look at because of the commercial agriculture, and lot of farmers started using excessive pesticides and excessive chemicals, and they are facing lots of diseases like cancer and a lot of other diseases. And most of the money that even though they earn from commercial crops, they're spending elsewhere. So if you look at that, the economical perspective, growing millets will actually help them not only get money but also to take care of their family well-being and health. And that is one aspect that I wanted to tell. And the third one is integrated. If you see, the millets are intercrops. We can also use millets, like ragi, you can grow a lot of pulses, and with pulses you can grow grains. So this millet farming is an intercrop farming also. We use in a lot of rainfall areas. So, in that way, even if one crop they don't get it home, the other crop comes, and then that they can sell and they can get economically benefited. So these are some of the economical benefits that we can talk about. And if you look at the second section, economical environmental sustainability. If you look at environmental sustainability, as I said, millets are rain-fed crops. They are grown in most harsh weather conditions, and India, we have harsh weather conditions and climate issues. So, this rain-fed farming means like you are using less water. And I read somewhere that 1 kg of rice, to grow 1 kg of rice, it takes 5,000 liters of water. But if you have to, like, millets take just 1/4 of it. So even like Dr. Amitabh, not Dr. Amitabh Kant, the Niti Ayog, from Niti Ayog, he was telling that the millets are the only way forward, because we are going to face climate changes. What happens if we don't get enough rain? Then how our food production system is going to survive? So the millets and rain fed farming, they have to encourage. Therefore, even government of India is also coming up with mission millet and lot of other schemes. And as per Dr. Vandana Shiva, she has done a lot of work in terms of seed preservation and Navadanya seed banks. And she was telling that human beings evolved by eating 8,500 plus species. And if you look at now, most of them are disappeared. We are only having about 300 varieties of species, right? And then, most of them also now are getting disappeared. So we have a responsibility of preserving these rare varieties of plants and species and legume plants. So this is one aspect, that how we can save the environment. And the third is that millets is not just a human foods. If you look at, millets are a bird food and cattle food. So this helps in the entire biodiversity preservation. So that takes care of that little farm, 5-acre farm. If a farmer grows, it gives grains for the farmer for 1 year, and also it gives a feeder for the cattle for another 1 year. So which means that there are multiple benefits. And if you look at, there is one more aspect. The World Wildlife Fund, WWF, that they are one of the very famous organization. They were saying most of the forest loss is because of the agriculture. Current food system is actually reason for 60% of biodiversity loss, because of a lot of commercial crops and chemicals and pesticides. You're killing birds and you're killing plants and you're killing lot of system. Therefore, this is one of the reason. So I was telling, each farmer, like especially women farmer, is equal to thousands of environmental social activists put together. If we can empower a farmer, what is good for the earth, what is good for the families, what is good for the society, which means you are taking care of the entire nature. So this is from the environmental perspective that I can say. And then I'll also share one of my personal experience. Just before March, before the lockdown, February, I was told in my village that there was no water. There are like more than 100 borewells. They dig borewells like anything, because they are growing vegetables and fruits. That's a horticulture zone in Chittoor district in Andhra Pradesh. And just before the rains, water vanished. And what do the farmers do? If they, thankfully this year monsoon was good and we got enough rain. But if there would not have been any rainfall, what would have been farmers doing? And what is the way forward? There is no other way for them to, they go commit suicide, isn't it? This is a big social issue. So these are some of the environmental aspects. Can say millet farming is the environment. And let us social benefits, like the millets were part of the staple diet for all of us for almost decades. It's actually, I read that millets have 7,500 years old history. It's not 100 or 200 years. But last 50 years, after the Green Revolution, we all got used to wheat and rice. And the free rice distribution also, which is actually good for the poor families. I'm not saying, not against for that, but this killed a lot of nutritional diversity. It killed a lot of food habits and culinary habits of lots of people. And that's the biggest issue, right? Green Revolution actually served purpose, and it reduced hunger, it increased the productivity, but it's a bargain. We lost a lot of nutritional diversity. The second is that India is a diabetic capital now. In Hyderabad, 99% of people eat non-veg. That's actually a shocking fact. So if you look at it, it's actually very, very sad fact. You have to have not only non-veg, you have a lot of diverse foods and diverse grains that you should be eating. But if you're only focusing on rice and wheat, that you are losing a lot of other benefits. And I worked in a project with Pullela Gopichand. He's a badminton legend, and we worked on a project called physical literacy. In physical literacy, right now what is happening is we are excessively focusing on alphabetical literacy and numerical literacy. When we say alphabetical literacy, it is A, B, C, D, which makes you read, write. Numerical literacy, 1, 2, 3, 4. It actually takes care of the numbers. You can calculate numbers and all that. But the physical literacy is a movement language, which is run, hit, catch, throw, pedal. So these are called physical literacy. When we were children, we used to have a lot of native games. We used to go cycle around. We used to go swim. We used to go play a lot of native games. And nowadays children are just like they are stuck with their phones and laptops. So what Gopichand was telling, that even lots of children are not able to walk backwards. So that is one of the biggest issue. So if the country has to develop, if the nation has to develop, nation is not just like it doesn't develop on its own. When it develops is when its people develop. When its people are healthy, happy, and sportive. When you have multiple, you are taking care of your environment, you are taking care of your businesses, you are taking care of your culture, you are taking care of a lot of aspects makes a nation, right? So this is one of the reasons that getting back this kind of nutritional diversity will help in social benefit also. So that is one of the social impact that I can talk about. And then comes to cultural perspective. And again, I go back to my place, and just before the monsoon starts, we used to make this a dish called ragi. Ragi idiyappam is like ragi noodles, which many farmers families do, and that is mixed with jaggery and mixed with black till, which very, very, very rarely it is grown. And we used to celebrate, and we used to eat that, and every family used to do that. But what happened is, like I was researching about the idea of how I could not out there on YouTube. So losing one crop means losing lots of culture associated with that, and ritual associated with that, and knowledge associated with that. So that's the reason that millets are sustainable foods. Millets take care of your environment. Millets take care of your economical take care of social issues, and millets take care of cultural. It's actually an integrated system. For millet farmers, we are encouraged, started millet bank with this kind of intention of empowering women, educating saying farmers and consumers. And I say farmers also consumers. Today, if you look at, farmers do not have strength. It needs a lot of physical strength, and they don't have strength because they stopped eating diverse. They are also started using this rice and wheat, excessive wheat and rice, and even in like Rayalaseema. If it is Punjab, I can understand because local foods, we have nothing to say. But even there, where in Rayalaseema, where ragi, sangati, and this kind of staple foods, even they stopped eating ragi, sangati, and ragi roti and jonna roti, all this, jowar roti and all that. So this is the reason the millets are good for all the aspects, and we can call them as foods. So setting community seed bank in village, and we are also reviving lands to grow millets. We are encouraging farmers. If somebody is not buying also, we will give you and we create markets. But what we are saying is, first you grow, first you consume. and then whatever is left, you sell. Therefore, you can reduce a lot of diseases. You also will be happy. Your children will be, and our nation will be happy. So this is what my views today, and maybe we can interact and you can ask questions, and I can answer that.
So much, ma'am. First of all, I would like to wish you National Women's Farmers Day. And it's a privilege to have
Thank
you.
you.
I welcome you again. So now I would like to request to wait for you for some time. It's like we will be having a vitality session in Hindi, and after that we will be taking question answer sessions. So I request
Yeah.
our viewers to post their questions on Facebook or YouTube, and the speaker will be addressing to your questions as per the time limits. So now I would like to request Dr. Jyoti Kumar, medical officer at NIN, to tell us about the vitality indicators in Hindi. Over to you, ma'am.
हेलो। जैसे कि हम सभी जानते हैं, इस वर्ष प्राकृतिक चिकित्सा दिवस समारोह की संकल्पना प्राकृतिक चिकित्सा से जीवन शक्ति का संवर्धन करना या पोषण करना यह है। हमने कुछ पिछले सत्रों में यह भी सीखा कि जो जीवन ऊर्जा हमें गर्भाधान के समय प्राप्त होती है, वही जीवन ऊर्जा हम जीवन भर हमारे शरीर के कई सारे कार्यों के लिए उसी को खर्च करते रहते हैं। और इसीलिए ये हमारी जिम्मेदारी है कि हम इस जीवन ऊर्जा का संवर्धन करें और वो प्रकृति के नियमों के अनुसार चलकर। प्रकृति चिकित्सा के दूसरे एक महत्वपूर्ण सिद्धांत के अनुसार हमारा शरीर 5 महाभूतों से बना हुआ है, जैसे कि पृथ्वी, जल, वायु, अग्नि और आकाश। हमारे कल के सत्र में हमने वायु तत्व के बारे में जाना, क्योंकि इन 5 तत्वों से ही हमारे शरीर का पोषण होता है। जब ये 5 तत्व हम भरपूर मात्रा में अपने शरीर को आपूर्ति करते हैं, तब जाकर हमारी जीवन ऊर्जा अपना कार्य करने में सक्षम होती है और तभी हमारे शरीर में अपने आप मरम्मत यानी कि सेल्फ रिपेयर का भी काम होता है। तो हमारे कल के सत्र में हमने वायु तत्व के बारे में जाना, तो आज हम यहाँ सूर्य की रोशनी के बारे में चर्चा करेंगे। तो हम सूरज की रोशनी से अपनी जीवन ऊर्जा का कैसे पोषण करें। पहले तो आप सूर्य की रोशनी में सुबह या शाम आधे घंटे के लिए रह सकते हैं, और इसमें ये बात ध्यान रखना जरूरी है कि आपका सिर ढका रहे और आपका शरीर भी गर्म ना हो। दूसरा है कि सन गेजिंग यानी कि सूरज को एकटक देखना, लेकिन इस अभ्यास को सुरक्षित तरीके से करने के लिए आपको अपने प्राकृतिक चिकित्सक की सलाह लेना आवश्यक है। और तीसरा है सन बास्किंग, यानी कि सूरज की रोशनी में बस लेटे रहना या आराम करना। और हम रोज सुबह 11 से 1 बजे तक आधे घंटे के लिए सूरज की रोशनी ले सकते हैं। तो सूर्य की रोशनी से हमारे शरीर को क्या-क्या फायदे होते हैं, ये भी जानना जरूरी है। तो सूरज की रोशनी से हमारे मस्तिष्क का कार्य सुधर जाता है। हमारे मस्तिष्क में सेरोटोनिन नामक एक जो हार्मोन है, उसका स्रवण बढ़ जाता है और जो हमारे शरीर को ऊर्जा से भर देता है और वो हमें शांत और सकारात्मक रहने के लिए भी मदद करता है। ये आपकी आंखों के लिए और आपकी हड्डियों के स्वास्थ्य के लिए लाभदायक है। ये आपको मानसिक अवसाद से उभार सकता है, यानी कि डिप्रेशन से आपको बाहर निकाल सकता है। कई सारी त्वचा की बीमारियों के लिए भी सूर्य की रोशनी बेहद लाभदायक है। इससे आपकी नींद की गुणवत्ता में सुधार आता है। ये आपके रक्तचाप और रक्त शर्करा को कम करने में भी मदद करता है। और इस तरह सूरज की रोशनी के हमारे शरीर के लिए और भी कई सारे फायदे हैं। इसीलिए अपनी जीवन ऊर्जा को बनाए रखने के लिए और उसको इष्टतम स्तर पर काम कराने के लिए हर रोज सूर्य की रोशनी का लाभ उठाएं। और इसी के साथ हम आज यहाँ ये चर्चा समाप्त कर रहे हैं। हमारे कल के सत्र में हम पानी का जो यूज है उसके बारे में और हमारी ऊर्जा के बारे में, जीवन शक्ति के बारे में बात करेंगे। तो हमारे साथ जुड़े रहिए। धन्यवाद।
Dhanyawad, Dr. Jyoti. So now I will be reading the questions asked by the viewers to you, ma'am, and you can answer them one by one. So our first question
Sure.
is, In these days of modern globalized market system, is it profitable for farmers to grow millets? Is it possible for people to wean off the rice, wheat, which is promoted by the governments and people are addicted to it? How will you bring youth into this, ma'am?
See, if
Hello?
you look at even after the corona issue happened, and hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Yes. So it will be profitable for farmers if their productivity goes up, if they are actually producing the quality of grains, and also if they are able to market at the right time, and the value added products if they could create. And if you see some of the challenges, farmers are ready to grow millets in the villages. Where they are facing lots of loss is because it needs excessive manpower. And though a lot of institutes like Icarus Hat and IIMR and all are actually introducing a lot of farm tools, it is still not reaching marginal and small farm holders. Therefore, they are actually investing a lot of money, and the produce is less. Therefore, they are facing losses. So, if we can actually take care of the machinery, and if we are actually empowering them with this kind of farm tools and technology, they will reduce that manpower and they'll reduce the investment, and they will be able to make more profits. Therefore, yes, it is profitable, because a consumer side also in the last 10 years, a lot of consumers also, they started adding millets into their diet. If you look at a lot of nutritionists also, and doctors also are advising millets in the as part of the food. Therefore, there's a lot of demand, but we have to fill this gap. And you might have heard Dr. Kadir Wali, and Dr. Kadir Wali did a lot of research and lots of foods, and then he was in USA. He came back to India, and he started giving lectures everywhere. So he goes to each city and then collects people, and then he talks about benefits. So one of the trend that you see is that he went to Australia someplace, and then the minute he is back from Australia, people started asking for millets, and they started, where can we get this kind of grains? And then he goes to USA. From USA, people started asking millets. So, the awareness levels from the farmer side also we have to increase, like, right way of growing millets, and the processing technology and machinery adopting. And also from the consumer side, we have to say, actually, this is beyond a pack of millets. You are going to Starbucks and eating, drinking a coffee for 300 or 350, and you are not spending money to buy a millets. Millets is not just it is not just food, right? Behind that, it takes care of a lot of birds and environment, and it preserves biodiversity. So a lot of benefits. So even the consumers also we need to create awareness. So yes, it is profitable, but still there are a lot of gaps that we need to fill, and that is not possible just from farmers side. So the government has to work from the policy level, and the hotels and restaurants have to include millets in their menus, and the researchers have to come up with new farm technology, and then people also have to recognize that these millets are beyond the pack that they are buying. It is lot good for the society and environment. So these aspects we have to create awareness, but it is profitable.
So, ma'am, are there any chick hotels promoting millets and all like that?
See, if you look at in Hyderabad, if you see, before 5 years there was not even one millet dish in the menu, and you go now, there are at least 5-6 hotels who are exclusively millet menu hotels. And recently, it is going. This news is going viral in Vizag. One guy started doing millet idlis, and then he is like making lots of money, and he's full busy. There is no space in his hotel, it seems. And if you look at the 5-star hotels also, I worked in hospitality and tourism sectors. There is a lot of experimentation is going on, and one of the trend that which hotels and restaurants also adopting, this is actually international practice, international trend nowadays, locally sourcing. It is people are like, even customers are asking, where are you getting this food from, and track and tracing. Therefore, a lot of hotels are introducing, but still we need to encourage more and more hotels to come up with this kind of new changes and menu changes. And one more thing, people always associate millets with poor people's food. right?
Mm.
This is not like rich people's, poor people's food and all that. So that perception has to change. And always another perception is this is very traditional food. So lots of chefs nowadays, they are introducing millets into the salads, millets into the burgers, millets. They're actually experimenting with modern foods also. If this kind of innovation happens, then this is more good for farmers and more good for consumers also, and adaptability will be more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my next question is how to bring in youth into this. Like I am from North India and I
Yeah,
rarely get a chance to go in South India and all. So
right.
once when I went to Hyderabad, I observed that that is the place for biryanis and like spices and all spicy foods.
Right,
So it's
right.
like how difficult was it for you to convince those people to turn into millets or something like that?
See, this is when you have to make them look more chic, It should not be like that old grains and old foods, no way, we don't want to eat, right? So you have to adopt, the chefs have to come up with new innovations, and they have to include them into the salads and into the burgers and into the pizza base or into the noodles or whatever the young people eat. And then if you can adopt this millets into that base, and then if you can offer youth, and there is no one is saying that no one can say no to it, because anyway they eat. If what they want is tasty, fast cooking, and then it should look cool, right? So if we can
Yeah.
take these aspects, so it can actually we will be able to attract them. And also you have to promote the content, you have to produce the content. So today we are on National Women Farmers Day. We are releasing a film on how much work that women farmers do. And in my opinion, today's youth is like, actually they're very, very cool. If you can inform them that this is what it is and this much of effort women farmers put in, and then if you can eat and if you can promote this, people will get benefited. I'm sure that they will also get convinced and sensitized. So a lot of aspects, creating new menus, coming up with new innovations and incorporating millets into the modern food, and also like bringing the stories from the farm. Like the previous speaker was telling Katha, how if the other person would not have told in a story format, then probably the listener would have not taken it. So we have to bring in more and more and more stories, and the culture associated with that, and sensitize youth also. So that's my opinion.
So eating not only healthy but sustainably in a cool way.
In a cool way, correct.
Yeah. So moving on to the next question, ma'am. Farmers play an important role in growing nutritional food. What are the challenges they face in growing millets as you work
See,
with?
number one is, what farmers look at now. Earlier it was a different way of life and all, but now things have changed. Even farmers, everybody nowadays wants to make economical sustainability, isn't it? So the first thing farmers look at is fair price. Whatever the investment they are doing in terms of the hard work and everything, they have to get fair, benefited. They don't want to bear any losses. So if there is enough market demand, then that is one aspect. One of the challenge is that a lot of these farmers are small and marginal farmers. Even if they grow some 4 quintals or 5 quintals, some remote area where they are not able to sell that, we have to come up with lots of e-commerce channels and bridge this gap between buyers and farmers. So one aspect is the price issue is what they are facing, and the second, manpower availability. So millets are very easy to grow. If you look at, like, they are grown in any harsh weathers and rain fed, but we still have to take care of the weeding, and also harvesting and post harvesting is extremely tedious task. And if you now is the season. If you go to any of these places like Rayalaseema, Chittoor and Anantapur, all these roads and everywhere it is full of millet post harvesting people. You see people working, and because they can't actually that they don't have machinery, they'll put all that crop on the road, so go on that crop, and then they can cut grains out. It's one of the issues that manpower availability nowadays, families, even in farmers, it is not more. So they also have to get extra additional agricultural help. So, and then they start paying like 300-400 rupees per farm worker you have in season. Now is the harvesting season, so they are not available easily. So if we can take care of the price, and if the manpower reduced by introducing technology, we'll be able to encourage more farmers. So these are the two challenges farmers are facing. That's why they are going for more commercial crops.
So based on that only, ma'am, I have next question. It's like nowadays in the market, wheat flour cost around 40 rupees per kg and millets cost around 82 rupees per kg.
Yeah.
So how will you justify that millets are sustainable
Yes.
food and we should turn into millets?
See, one of the reason I told you, the reason wheat, why it is because it's a large quantities of wheat production, right? And there's a lot of government, schemes also in promoting wheat and rice. Government excessively focused on promoting policy making. All that ecosystem is there for wheat. For millets, there is no ecosystem. For example, the reason why I started Millet Bank is because of my sister. My sister is a farmer based out of Karnataka. And 2 years back, she has grown a foxtail millet, which we call koralu. And then, her crop was such a good crop. It was actually very good with the organic manure and all. So government came and recognized her efforts. They gave her awards and they called her for meetings. But even after 1 year, her 4 quintals of millets were at her home only, because there was no machinery around. She has to take that foxtail millet to some 30 kilometers away one place, and then she had to get that to the mill, and she has to make the rice out of it. So which is actually a very expensive, right? So you have to hire an auto and then go and then come back again. So lots of this, there is no ecosystem for millets if you look at. Therefore it is expensive, but we don't want to make millets expensive. The more we make this more expensive, people at the bottom level, they will lose that nutritional diversity. So if we can actually come up with more policies and encourage more farmers to grow, encourage more farmers to eat, and that is when actually we will be able to reduce the price to rice or a wheat level. And then we will be able to take care of the diverse foods.
Yeah. So we have one more question, ma'am. I guess you have already answered that question. It was what inspired you to come up with the idea of Millet Bank? So if you want to answer this question, it's completely fine, ma'am.
It is just my sister and hundreds of other sisters and my sister-in-laws, and I see that they are working in the farm 24/7. They wake up before the sunrise and they actually go to bed after the sunset. So for women farmers, it is not just the farm work, right? For me, I have a maid. I am just focusing on my office work, and work from home means I'm sitting very comfortably on my chair. But it is women farmers, that is not the case. They have to take care of their own domestic works. They have to take care of the other needs, and then they are going into farm. And even if they are putting so much of effort, if they're not able to sell their produce, if they are not making any money for their survival, and plus if they are suffering with lots of other diseases because of these chemicals and pesticides, and how we will feel good, what is the meaning of our life, right? So that is the reason I've started to help women farmers and bridge that market gap. They are growing and we identify them. We actually help them to source very good quality seeds, and we will also help them to get good organic manure. And if they are growing, we are telling them, please keep some portion for your house, and then whatever is left, we will buy. And we will actually, if you are selling 20 rupees per kg, we will give you 30 rupees per kg, because my intention is to benefit farmers. It is not a commercial thing for us, but to benefit farmers. So it is my sister and hundreds of other women are inspiration for me to start this.
That's very nice, ma'am. We have one more question. How are you engaging your farmers? What is the convincing point for them, ma'am?
See, the convincing point is price, definitely price. So if we say that, you grow this, and if nobody is buying, we can buy, then that is when they're getting convinced. At least, there is some money is coming in. And the second is that, we have to tell them the benefits, like commercial crop, if they are growing vegetable or cotton or something, the investment is also more. They have to buy pesticides and chemicals. At the end, even if they get 100 rupees, 50 rupees they are spending on their health, isn't it? They are actually bargaining for their health. So we have to tell the benefits that, the millets are not just for income. Millets are for your family, your children. They have to grow healthier to be able to be good citizens also. So these are the aspects we say. And from Millet Bank, what I have done, how I started, we converted one of our unused agricultural shed into a community place. So we started a farm museum because a lot of modern farmers are not aware of the traditional practices and how people used to grow millets and what kind of varieties, what are the soil structures, and what were the ancient foods that we used to eat. This kind of knowledge completely was lost. And it was actually why we can't, anybody can become a software engineer, or anybody can become a doctor, or anybody can become anything, but anybody cannot become a farmer. Farming is a knowledge that is coming from generations to generations to generations, being passed on. The kind of knowledge associated with seeds, knowledge associated with farm equipment, knowledge associated with seasons, knowledge associated with festivals. It's actually being passed on from generation to generation. So all this is being lost. So what I have done is I've selected 25-kilometer radius of our village, and we've converted one of our farm shed, which was unused, to a very cool community center. And we installed even like the TV and laptops. So we started giving English communication classes, and then we started teaching children tuitions. So therefore, even like everybody is finding this, wow, do we get this kind of so we have to stop saying farmers are poor. We have to say, we are proud farmers. We are not poor farmers. We are proud farmers. So we have to take pride of our own culture and our agriculture. So that is when things happen. So the convincing factor is like both economical, environmental, cultural, and social perspective. So we have to address all these 4 aspects.
That's really nice, ma'am. We have one more question. What is the effect of PDS rice to millets growing villages?
What is PDS rice?
One second, ma'am. What is the effect of PDS rice to millet growing villages?
See, the rice, where the rice is grown, where the rice is grown in the areas where the water resources, excessive water resources available. If you look at in Andhra Pradesh, the Turpu Godavari or Pachima Godavari, these are the places where they are growing rice because there's excessive water, rivers, and all this. But if you're actually growing this in Rayalaseema, which is actually a dryland area, and this is one of the biggest mistakes that we have done in Rayalaseema. They started digging bore wells and they started growing rice, which is actually not economically sustainable. Plus, you are not able to match with the production which East Godavari districts will give, because their lands are different, they have excessive enough water resources, and their habits are different, the culture is different. The same thing we can't actually apply for Rayalaseema where there is no water availability. Therefore, the millet growing villages are actually the dryland areas, and the culture and the soil structures and everything is very, very different. So this is what the localized farming, localized food needs to be encouraged.
Correct, ma'am. I'll be taking one more question and then we'll be ending the session. What is the way forward for Millet Bank in bringing back the nutritional diversity and create awareness among the consumers?
See, as of now, we just started, before 6 months, though we have farming background and all that, the Millet Bank started just 6 months back. So we've kind of created the community center, and we revived almost 25 acres of land into the millet farming, and it was like 15 years we've not cultivated a particular type of rice like Bairodlu in our village. When I was child, they used to cultivate. I revived that variety also this time. So, and we went and met a couple of policy makers and the collector, and I came to know what are the the benefits associated for millet farming, and I got to know there is 6,000 rupees subsidy if anybody is growing millets, and nobody knew about it. So these are a couple of things that we have done, and we also created a network of farmers network of 50 people. And now what we want to do is we want to create an e-commerce platform and get this millet farmers directly associated with consumers. So we will be getting into the market, we will be coming up with more products, and also we will be setting up more millet banks. So my idea is millet bank, it should not be like one place that we set up and it caters the entire state, but we want to set up millet bank in every district, in every district where the dry land and rain fed farming is happening. And the millet bank will have a community seed bank, millet bank will have small processing unit, and millet bank will have some kind of a marketing facility also, so that we can bridge the gap between farmers and consumers. So these are my ideas. There are a lot more, but this is for now.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So the takeaway from today's session will be, we are proud farmers and not poor farmers.
Yeah.
And we should not only eat healthy, but think about the whole biodiversity and environment. Also, we
Yes.
should think of economic, social, and cultural benefits of society. So
Correct.
it was our privilege to have you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shivangi. Thank you for the opportunity.
So now for tomorrow's session, the tomorrow's session will be taken by Dr. Preeti Kohli, which will be moderated by Dr. Amal Roshan. We will be meeting at the same time, same platform. So stay tuned with us. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.